All right. Hello, my friends. It's me, Golden, and we are here with the Art of Awakening. Thank you for joining me today. And I'm feeling called today to drop back into the YouTube sphere and actually speak about um, my time off of social media and how I'm navigating my relationship with YouTube and having an online presence um, these days at this time. And so, yeah, I just thought I'd jump in and speak with stream of consciousness, free flow, and just speak from my heart, from me to you, and share what this experience is like for me. So, um, probably about, I can't remember, but it's been probably about a year ago that I deleted my FB account. And I'm probably going to be careful about language that I use here. So I might say words to substitute others because of the nature of what I'm going to be talking about and just the nature of what's happening on these platforms. So, and then I've been off of IG for over 6 months now. My account is still active there. I just haven't been on that platform since leaving it, and I believe that was the day prior to winter solstice. It was right around the end of December 2020, and I had already taken several breaks from that particular platform, IG, prior, having been off for months at a time in different doses, and felt really good. And I found myself coming back because the draw of connection through community and just tuning into people who inspire me there and whose voices um, carry weight in my life. And I liked to tune in to see what they were sharing and speaking on, and found that so many of those people um, were actually being silenced and put in the shadows there, and also just losing their platform and having their accounts be deleted, and or just posts being taken down because of the nature of what they were sharing in the posts. And I mean, I had a small platform there, and even I found that these things were happening to me as well, in terms of like certain posts that I would share would be silenced and like flagged, and I had the sense that I was also being put in the shadows um, there on IG, and um, so that was a big part of my concern. I mean, there was so many concerns about both of these platforms for me. But the deciding factor to leave the latter platform was that there was a new privacy terms and conditions type update and privacy policy update. And I mean, I call it the privacy invasion update because they were just taking it to greater and greater lengths to invade our privacy. And there were certain aspects of the new update that I just um, was so disturbed by, even though I do know the reach into our private lives for all of us who, do anything online. This is a factor, and um, it's something that we all have to navigate to the best of our ability. And but there were just certain things that were being named outright that they were stating that they had the right to do because they are a private corporation business. And so I just didn't agree to the terms. And so decided that I would remove myself. And, FB owns IG, and we can look now and we can see that um, that particular FB platform is actually working hand in hand with the governing body here, and it's quite disconcerting what's happening to people who are um, not in lockstep with the mainstream narrative. And so, I mean, that happens on this platform as well. As we all know, there are so many people who are being deplatformed and silenced here, um, and flagged and whatnot. And it's quite upsetting and disconcerting to bear witness to, and to see what's happening and happening so rapidly. So, those are a lot of the overarching concerns that I've had, as well as we all know that these types of platforms are literally coded and designed utilizing slot machine type algorithm technology to get us addicted and to keep us hooked in. And I mean, I found that for myself when utilizing IG, especially. I could see how it was affecting my brain and my attention span, and playing upon that whole dopamine hit desire. Um, it was working on me. And that was concerning because I could observe it, and I could observe how easy and how sort of it bypassed my conscious mind, and I would just um, like not thinking, just as a reflex, would open up my phone and go to the app, and it was just like it became filler in my day when I would be doing things, and I just didn't feel good about that. I didn't feel good about that for a long time, but it was becoming progressively more and more clear to me how it was infecting me in those ways. And also, it was just playing upon my own stuff. And I had issues with the follower count. I don't like that. I think that really plays upon competitive type programming amongst us humans, whereas I think that we should be gearing our focus more on being collaborative rather than competitive in that way, and comparing ourselves to each other and follower counts and such. And I see how much it affects our young people as well as us who are more into our grown adulthood phase. And, just like counts, thinking about comments, thinking about who liked and who didn't like, who commented and who didn't commented, what were the comments. And then also just the whole thing around um, the DMs and issues in the DMs, especially when sharing content that might not be echoing the mainstream narrative, to have very alarming DMs come through from people who you might not ever expect it. Name calling and just some really ugly, childish type behavior. And on that note, just that leads me to cancel culture and that whole idea that somebody could maybe share one thing that might be not expressed in its full context, or might be taken out of context, and then suddenly, like, a whole planet can decide to attack and cancel someone. And I saw it happen plenty. We all see that happen way too often. And I just became concerned with that type of groupthink and that type of pressure to post, even just certain topics and content, and that, if you're not using the right words and languaging, you are a target to be um, canceled. Your whole life can be canceled based on whether or not, how affiliated you are with the groupthink of the moment. And all of these things are very concerning to me. And I would hope that we, as wise, emotionally intelligent, grown, mature adults, could engage in discourse and even create space for debate, healthy debate, and have opportunities to even have uncomfortable conversations where we have differing viewpoints, and discuss it and listen and share and practice compassionate communication and be respectful. And I realize that in that kind of setting where everything is moving a million miles an hour, and nobody really has time to have a true discourse or conversation or debate, especially in written comments that often come from a very reactive place, and oftentimes people feel very protected behind their screen and keyboard, and often fly off and say things that they might not ever say in person. Um, all of these factors create very unhealthy dynamics of exchange, and it's just not appropriate. It's not an appropriate place to engage in these types of debate unless, the context is really set, the stage is really set, the container is really set. um, yeah, so it's a bummer because there are a lot of benefits to these types of platforms as well, and especially during the whole past year and everything that we went through with so much isolation. um, it was an opportunity for so many of us to connect and to share and have a sense of community and friendship, and it's just such a bummer that it's like throwing out the baby with the bathwater, where it's like, why can't we um, all be mature enough to and ethical enough to create platforms like that, where it could be a healthy experience. And I understand that corporations have a vested interest in polarizing people, and that polarizing posts also get way more attention, where people are in hot debates and fighting amongst each other, and a lot of different type of topics of content get a lot of attention and others don't, and then others are silenced and deplatformed and shadow banned and whatnot. um, and yeah, it's just so out of hand in how much the lengths that are being taken to silence folks that are offering alternative thoughts that might even just be questioning the mainstream narrative. And yeah, so I have been sort of hearing this phrase in my head, digital witch hunts, and that we are living in a time of digital witch hunts. And so um, I realize that for me, in my own personal life, it's taken so much conscious um, healing work and deep diving within myself to find my own voice and activate my own voice. And as anybody who feels like the black sheep of their family might say, a lot of us can feel unsafe speaking our truth and embodying our truth and being seen and standing in our truth and moving in our truth and living in our truth. And so, an effect of that, a coping strategy can be the silencing of the voice. And so, especially when we're seeing in the world these huge corporations and governing bodies that are actively and outright and naming it and saying it, that they are actively silencing anybody who's not going along with the mainstream narrative. And it's kind of like digital book burning in a way. And so I've been thinking that it feels like a digital witch hunt, because all of a sudden, people who are sharing certain content, their platform is gone from one moment to the next. And it can feel like a sort of digital disappearing. And that is quite alarming. And just, to weave it back to the personal for me, and talking about how it's been a long journey for me to activate my own voice and to feel safe and resourced and courageous enough to speak my truth freely, when for so long, I wasn't even consciously aware that I didn't feel safe, resourced, or courageous enough to do it. I just didn't have an activated voice. And I think deeper than that was because I didn't have a really true, clear sense of myself. And in many senses I did, but in certain senses I didn't. I'm going to take a sip of water. One sec. So, and being a woman and just thinking about how common it is for us as women to not just simply feel safe in our bodies in the world, for a whole variety of reasons, which I probably don't need to name here. And I'm speaking about it from a woman perspective because I am a woman. And so I just think about my own life experience and how oftentimes it has felt unsafe, just simply being in my woman body, and let alone having a voice, that has oftentimes alternative type of things to say in relation to many topics, and especially in the past year, and how unsafe it has felt to speak freely about it, not only online, but even amidst, people, groups of people, because everything is so heated and polarized, and people are so deeply convicted, and I find oftentimes unable to hold space for a differing point of view. And when you don't always, when you don't have a point of view that is necessarily aligned with the mainstream narrative, or it questions it, or it might just have a different vantage point or perspective or questions or thoughts, that it can create a sense of not feeling safe to speak about it freely. And so, that also translates to being online and how we navigate being online. And the examples that are made out of those of us who have much larger platforms. Mine's so tiny, but people with very big platforms who are speaking up courageously are, can often just disappear from being online. more so in the past year than what we've seen since we've had access to being online that we're aware of, right? Um, and so, yeah, I'm just thinking that um, we have to be very careful about how we navigate what we share, and this can feel very isolating. Um, and I know a lot of people feel similarly to me, and it can feel frustrating when these voices with other varying perspectives are silenced, because then it seems that there are less and less of people who have differing point of views, whatever the differing point of view might be. Um, so then it can feel more and more isolating for those of us who are just seeking out varying point of views, you know? And for me personally, I like to do my research and I like to look at things from many different vantage points. And I'm finding that more and more difficult as certain voices disappear um, from these sort of public platforms, that it sways the narrative. And it concerns me for people, especially younger people, who might not be as adept at critical thinking or even knowing. You know, when I speak to younger people and I hear that they don't even really know where to go to find varying viewpoints, that concerns me greatly. And and just, the pressure that they feel to think and act in certain ways based on what they see online, on these platforms. So, yeah, there's a lot of concerns about what's happening, and there are also other platforms that are popping up that are not as popular, but tend to promote more just spaciousness to share varying perspectives and points of view and information and data and resources and links and whatnot. So that is heartening. And yeah, I just want to say, especially these past 6+ months of um, not being on IG and really missing certain people there and not necessarily having access to them for a variety of reasons. Um, it's a bummer. And it is quite concerning just to see the way that things are rolling out, and not always feeling safe to show up and speak on it. And so, yeah, I'm not quite even sure where I'm going with this video, but I did want to speak on what it's been like to not be there. And I did notice, actually, especially after leaving IG, those first weeks being off, I was aware of a downregulation in my nervous system, um, which surprised me. And I didn't really anticipate or expect that that kind of a response would happen in my body temple. And it did. And it created more spaciousness in my life. And it also created more opportunities for me to actually be with myself, which I realized that I was utilizing these platforms also as just a distraction, as an instantaneous way to check out. And, I realized it's also in the past was a coping strategy for me to, if I was having a very uncomfortable moment, I had this instantaneous way to check out of it, um, a coping strategy. And so um, it's one of those things that has been sort of removed. And so that feels really good. Um, but I do feel sad that I don't have the connection with certain people there anymore. And also, just as an entrepreneur, this is one thing that I didn't mention. Um, I have really loved the ability to share my work there and connect with community in that way, to just be like, hey, this is what I'm doing. I'm teaching this dance class or offering this workshop or doing this type of work with clients one on one, and sharing my services in that way. And that was one of the beautiful aspects of social media, is like it's a free space to share our wares, to share our works. It's sort of that digital marketplace. And so not having that is frustrating. It's that's annoying as well. Um, and so something that I thought when I was leaving that last platform was, a phrase that came to me was mycelial marketing, and sharing my work in different ways. And as it turns out, it's just for the past months that I've been off, I've been really kind of deep in my own process, as it were, anyways. And so, um, yeah, I've just been in my own deep process and really inquiring within about what mycelial marketing really looks like, and feeling into organically, naturally sharing in surprising new and different ways, and or maybe even more old school ways. Um, and that feels good. That feels like an opening to me, and it feels more healthy, even though there is a impact by not being on social media in that way with my business. um, I suppose it's been an invitation to be more creative with my work, even more intentional with my work and the people that I'm engaging with, um, and tuning in to connect and share services and connect with community in ways that are not infiltrated by these private corporations that don't have our best interests in mind. Now, does that mean that I will be off of IG forever? I'm not sure. I have not deleted that account. It still sits there. I don't even know what's happening on it because I haven't been on it once since I left. And sometimes I think about deleting it. I've left it up because I really like what I shared there. A lot of it was during my cancer initiation. I was creating so much art with my photography and my writing and my dancing and my videos in nature. And I mean, these were like ritual art, healing art practices that I did. And I was sharing about my process there. And I was able to connect with so many beautiful people in that way who felt resonance. And um, so, I think if things were different there, I would be so stoked to go back and engage and have a healthier approach and practice in the way of engaging, just, based on what I named in some of the unhealthier coping strategies that I was utilizing. Um, but just based on how unethical these corporations are, it just feels gross. And I mean, so is this platform to a different degree. And just simply having our electronic devices, is there's also such a deep in reach into our private lives that we should be quite concerned about. Um, and I don't think that there's any easy answers for us. Um, but I would love to hear if you have thoughts and ideas, and if you have ways of navigating it that feel good for you. Please share with me. Um, I am totally a fallible human. I am not saying I have anything figured out. I'm also trying to figure it all out myself. And yeah, I'm just in the process along with the rest of us. And so many of us have a growing concern about the way that AI is developing and reaching into our lives in ways that we didn't ask for and don't want. Um, and yeah, I mean, on that note, I've thought about, just getting a flip phone at least, and totally upgrading in that way to, I guess what I'm calling not a dumb phone, but a smarter phone. Um, and just having a laptop, having the phone, they are tools. They are very helpful tools. Having access to the internet, and there's so many great aspects to it, but there's also so many concerns. It's a double-edged sword, and um, yeah. Um, I mean, gosh, I feel like I've been so circuitous in the way that I've been speaking, but I just realized that there was one main point that I didn't name back when I was talking about digital witch hunts. Um, in that, not only for us, so many of us, does it not necessarily feel safe to be in our bodies at this time, for a variety of reasons, and speak our truth and embody our truth and move through the world freely in the way that we'd like to, or feel that is our human, not feel that's our human right. It is our human right. Um, but I wanted to add that for how many generations in our lineage has it not been safe? And I think about my own personal lineage, and I think about how in one recent phase there were so many of my ancestors were religious refugees and were fleeing persecution for their beliefs, and they were being tortured and killed for their beliefs, and had to seek refuge by leaving again and again, and seeking safe haven just to simply have their beliefs, religious and apolitical beliefs. And then I think, deeper beyond that, period of time that was more recent was, during the enforced conversion times, and who knows how many times prior to that, where we haven't simply just felt safe being embodied. And so I just wanted to give name to that, and speak to that. And that if you're feeling unsafe in speaking your truth at this time, that might be alive for you right now. So I just wanted to name that and say that your experience this lifetime is very real and is potentially dramatically impacted by intergenerational unresolved trauma. And science has already proven that when we're in the womb, we download what they've named up to 7 generations of unresolved trauma while we're in the womb. And, who knows how many more that they just haven't been able to name. So, but the beauty in that is that we can resolve unresolved trauma. We have the ability to do that this lifetime right now. And so if you're here with me still, You are 100% in your own awakening process. And whether or not you agree with my viewpoints or not, but just the fact that we can sit here and name these things and navigate them together. Yeah, we are in the process of awakening to the truth of who we truly are and our potentiality here on the planet. And if you have a sense that something is very off here, but you're not quite sure how to articulate it, it's a felt sense. And you're in that process. And the more and more we awaken to the truth of who we truly are, the more we awaken to our potential as human beings and the design of life and nature, and that nature is encoded with the law of abundance, and nature is designed for all of us to thrive, the earth and all of her inhabitants, not just some select tiny few, and everybody else stays on survival mode and struggles and fights amongst themselves. No, that's not how nature was intended or designed. We only need to look into nature to see the natural laws of life, to remember if we need to remember, if we need to recover ourselves and the truth and our true nature. And so that is really ultimately what I'm calling forth. I am calling forth the awakening of us humans and the recovering and remembering the truth of who we truly are, and the regeneration of humans and the planet and all of life here, so that we can come back into that natural state of thriving, so we can move beyond survival mode and that whole competition and the whole divide and conquer thing that's happening right now, and shift into a space of collaboration from a place of power and a place of self-knowing. And as we remember, as we regenerate ourselves, we naturally go from a place of me to we to be consciousness. I truly feel this is the pathway. This is my vision. This is part of my mission. And this is why I am seeking to move through the fear from a place of courage to speak and embody my truth, and with the hope that even if you don't agree with me at all, that you would feel inspired to speak your truth as well and embody it, and that we could agree to be mature enough to hold space for each other with curiosity and compassion, and it's seeking to better understand each other, and to honor our gifted human rights, to be free. So bless you. Thank you for being here with me today. I know it was total flow, stream of consciousness. And that's often how I just roll. So thank you for dropping in. And I would love to hear your reflections and how this landed in your body temple. Yeah. And I just invite, if you're going to leave a comment, to please be respectful and to speak to me the way that you would want me to speak to you. And thank you and bless you. Peace be within you always.